Hello and welcome to your award-winning The Reasons I'm Broke podcast, bringing you the reasons we're broke every single week through news and headlines ranging from comics, movies, TV, video games, and more. I'm Daniel, and your other host this week is Macio on his birthday week. Happy birthday and welcome back, Macio.
Appreciate it. I'm glad to be back.
And on a good week because we've got one of your favorite things, Fortnite, that we're going to kick it off with. But first, if this is your very first episode of the show, the way we format it is we go through this week's news, and then we end it with the Brocat Block, which is the more personal side of the show, what Macio and I have been up to since you last heard us. So let's jump right in and explore sector number 567. So this one I posted in a couple of Nintendo groups, and they had a little fit about it. Fortnite has circulated a survey mentioning potential crossovers with franchises like Pokemon, Grand Theft Auto, and Metal Gear. So the survey includes characters such as Mewtwo, and this doesn't mean any immediate crossover, but it does provide some insight into Epic Games' future plans for Fortnite. So I'm sure this isn't the first time they've sent out a survey like this. But you, Macio, someone who plays probably every night from the looks of our Discord, does this mean anything as far as these particular franchises, or are they mainly taking like a survey to see what franchises like these they could possibly get?
I think it's a little bit of both. There's been a lot of times where these surveys go out and the things that were in the surveys actually show up in the game. So I wouldn't be surprised if any of these things show up. Pokemon would be a surprise. I don't think they would put skins in the game. It might be like like a Pokemon experience, kind of like when they do like the concerts, or maybe like Pokemon skins for the guns, or Pokemon.
What about like assists?
Like this thing, assists?
Yeah. Is there anything in the game that you can summon that'll help you fight the other Fortnites?
When they had the Dragon Ball Z thing, like you could Kamehameha, or when they had the My Hero stuff, they had like the Deku Smash in the game. So they might do something like that. My thought process behind it is mostly just the fact that Nintendo doesn't like to have their stuff mixed in with guns. Mm-hmm. And like Fortnite is all about shooting stuff. So that one I'm kind of iffy on. Grand Theft Auto and Metal Gear seems way more up their alley, because a lot of the major titles, Halo, Gears, Uncharted, like they got skins, like actual characters in Fortnite. So like Master Chief's in Fortnite, Nathan Drake is in Fortnite. So I would definitely see them put like Solid Snake in there, or maybe like one of the characters from Grand Theft Auto. So those are more likely than the Pokemon, but I could still see it happening. But there has to be, it's always due for a promotion. So they're not going to put Pokemon stuff in the game if they don't have a new Pokemon game coming out. So seeing as how there's probably going to be another Grand Theft Auto, if not at the end of this year, sometime next year, and then they just announced the new Metal Gear game, we could probably see some type of promotion surrounding those soon.
See, I was thinking when you were mentioning, like, yeah, they're probably not going to be playable characters, like running around with a Mewtwo as your guy. Yeah, I think you're right. I don't think Nintendo would allow the image of Mewtwo getting shot up. And I know they did that Rabbids crossover with Mario, but it was kind of like more fantasy, cartoony type of guns. But yeah, my idea was more like maybe something like Smash Brothers, where you get an item, which is a Pokeball, you throw it out, and you randomly, or you know which Pokemon you get, and it just summons it, does a little bit of damage, splash damage, whatever, and then it goes away. Something that the players can't shoot at to make them like die or go away. Instead, it would just, you try to hide from it, and then that'd be kind of it. Or as you were saying, just a themed out, like a Pokeball type of shoes or a hat that you can wear that has Pikachu on it. Yeah. I'm with you that you're not. It's not going to be Mewtwo running around gunning guys down.
Like I don't think they're going to put like an Ash Ketchum skin. Like
no,
they might put like a character wearing an Ash Ketchum hat, or even like you said, oh, there's Pokeballs all around the map that you could pick up as loot, and then you throw out the Pokeball. It could be a Squirtle, it could be a Bulbasaur, it could be a Pikachu, that just, you know, hits you for some type of damage real quick, and then that's it. Like it's a one-time use. You throw it out, it does damage, and it goes away. And you can't actually shoot at it. You can't do anything to it. It just does stuff to you. That's also a possibility. But again, like as far as I know, there's not any Pokemon games coming out soon, right? So I don't
They
know
release them
where
every
would fit
year,
it in.
so
Yeah, so it's definitely a possibility. I wouldn't put it past them. I mean, Fortnite has damn near everything.
when I put this in the Nintendo groups on Facebook, because I made up a little graphic and threw it up, threw Mewtwo in the background, and all the Nintendo, the gaming groups, the ones that are like PlayStation, Xbox, they were like, okay, that's cool, whatever. I don't see it happening, or that'd be neat. But the Nintendo groups, man, they were like, Fortnite needs to be stopped. This is ridiculous. Like, now this is too much. No, not Pokemon. They wouldn't allow it. Why would Pokemon do this? And I'm sitting here thinking, one, you guys are the touchiest out of this, but two, you don't have to play this. Like, how does this affect you at all? It's just the idea of it being in Fortnite that bugs them.
They're gatekeeping a game for kids to be in the game for kids. Like that's what they're doing. Fortnite is a game for kids. Pokemon is a game for kids.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, I put a ton of hours in it, but that doesn't mean that it's not a game for kids. Like it's more geared towards kids. Like, and what's the gatekeep about Pokemon? The shit has been around for 30 years, man. Over 30 years. What exactly are we like gatekeeping that we need to be like, oh, hey, Fortnite is too far. Not Detective Pikachu, not you could go in Target and get a Pokemon shirt at any point. Not that damn near fucking 100 million copies sold. None of that stuff matters. It's Fortnite that's when it's going too far.
It's pretty hilarious, and just for that, I want to see Pokemon do something in Fortnite, just to see them lose their absolute minds. And I'm saying this as a Pokemon fan, but I acknowledge too that yes, it is for kids. It's on a toy. Video game systems are toys. I'm one of those guys that says that mainly just to piss off some gamers a little bit. But yeah, I mean that's what it comes down to. Not that big a deal, but yeah, whatever it ends up being, I'm sure hopefully by the next time you're on, we'll know what that addition is, because they're adding stuff all the time. And then we can finally say, oh yeah, that's Mewtwo from Fortnite, just like we do with everything else. Like, oh, that's Naturo from Fortnite.
I wouldn't be surprised with it. Just I'm going to keep an eye on it. There haven't really been any like super crazy crossovers in the past couple months. So we're due up for one for sure. This next season is supposed to be Transformers.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, of course, to promote the movie, and it literally comes out on Saturday, I think. So
yeah, that's perfect.
We'll
Another game that's getting DLC is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge. The DLC is called Dimension Shell Shock. One of the best received games in a long time, especially where just universally people loved it. Even people that never grew up on TMNT, they enjoyed this game. I saw people of all ages getting on it. But this one does introduce Usagi Yojimbo as a playable character and offers multiversal interdimensional battles, so new stages. The DLC is going to include a new game mode, original music, alternate color schemes for the characters, and there's going to be a free update with additional color options that is going to be released. So I think we all kind of saw this coming, especially as you got to the end of the game and you could unlock Casey Jones. And it's like, all right, they've got all the assets there. Just throw in a couple of characters. And they said Usagi's just one of more that are coming. They put it in the trailer, new playable characters. So that's the one that they revealed. And we'll see what the next ones are. And Usagi's actually kind of a deep cuts character. Like, I know of the character, and anyone that shops in comics or reads knows of Usagi, or even a TMNT fan would know. But to anyone else, they're just kind of like, oh, okay, they don't really know about him, which I thought was an interesting choice, because I don't think they really could have gone wrong. It's such a big game that they had their pick. They can't really pick wrong.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you right now, the only thing I know about TMNT is basically the video game. So I had no idea who Usagi was. The character looked cool as shit. So I was like, damn. Honestly, I didn't know. I thought they made up the character from the game. I didn't know anything about him. So it's pretty cool. I like that they're adding DLC. What I don't like is that they're taking TMNT Shredder's Revenge off Game Pass literally next week.
Oh,
So that sucks. Now I gotta buy the game. Woe is me. But it is what it is. I definitely enjoyed Shredder's Revenge. I felt like the game could have been a little bit longer. If I had to go with like my favorite beat 'em up over the past like 3 or 4 years, I would definitely end up going Streets of Rage before Shredder's Revenge. But they're made by the same developers,
mm.
so it's like either way, I'm picking like the same team kind of. But I enjoyed Streets of Rage more. The combat system was a little bit deeper. The levels were longer, and it had more replayability for me. But Shredder's Revenge was definitely still good, and I hope that this does well for them. The DLC sells pretty good, and they keep adding more stages, more levels, and more characters.
One of the things that as I was going through the game, and Leo and I played the entire game, we almost level 10 to every character, is when you saw the punk frogs, I was like, oh man, they're like running around and they're throughout the different stages. I thought that for sure by the end, or if you 100% at all the levels, you could palette swap with the frogs, but you couldn't.
Mhm.
And that was the one thing that I'm like, oh man, I wish they would have put them in there. But there's hope. I mean, that would be, I would assume hopefully an easy palette swap with even just the turtles or a skin. But if not, I'm sure they'll come up with other really cool characters to put in. In the TMNT universe, there's so many different ones they can go with, especially if they're going with Usagi. I mean, they can go real deep cuts with any of the comic characters. They can go with a couple of the female turtles that are already in the comics, which might even happen. It just kind of depends on which direction they want to go with. I think they just have their pick. Whatever they release, people are going to buy it.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they add maybe not the punk frogs, but some of those bosses, because that's what they did at Streets of Rage. They
Okay.
added a lot of the bosses as playable characters. When they started adding characters, they would add like a new character and then a boss with it, or a mini boss with it. So that's definitely a possibility.
Even Shredder's a no-brainer.
Oh yeah, yeah. It all depends on which way they want to go. I don't think they ended up putting the final boss as a playable character, but a lot of those bosses leading up to it, they definitely added into the game.
Moving on into some movie news, Pixar has cut around 75 jobs as part of the ongoing Disney layoffs. So this decision affected director Angus MacLane and producer Galen Sussman. The layoffs come amidst Disney's cost-saving efforts, which we did talk about a couple months back, with a focus on reducing jobs and merging film and television groups. The underperformance of Lightyear at the box office may have contributed to the cuts, and these layoffs mark a rare occurrence for Pixar, which has not experienced any cuts in the past decade. But now that they're a part of Disney, Disney's cutting down, so all of their companies underneath them are going to be cutting down too.
That is a crazy stat. No layoffs in the past 10 years. Like, man, I don't think really any major company could say like they have had no layoffs. Even big companies would lay off like just, oh man, this section isn't really doing too well. That's just 20 jobs. Just get them up out of here, and they'll just cut them like it's nothing. So the fact that they were keeping people around, but the thing is like, as far as I know, this is like the only dud on like Pixar's name in the past 10 years, right? I can't think of too many other.
The Little Dinosaur, I think was what it was called, or something, was another one.
Yeah. But like for every like one dud, they might have like 2 or 3 hits.
Yep.
And they crank out movies. I think we talked about this last time I was on. They already have another movie coming out this year. So like I think they have 2 movies coming out this year. So they crank out movies like crazy. And you already know they already have this problem with Marvel with working their employees to the bone. So we can already see in the future like that's probably going to be an issue. But pretty much every single one of these companies, Disney, Warner Brothers, all of them are just trying to find ways to save money because content is expensive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's not the moneymaker that they thought it would be, especially when it comes to streaming. I mean, I was just on Discord. I noticed I pulled up Max because I was watching a little bit of Succession while I was working on notes. And I'm like, oh shit, Avatar: The Way of Water is on Max? That's a Disney movie. So it's one bro company selling to another bro company.
That's wild. That is wild.
So I guess I'll be watching that. I'll be watching James Cameron's Avatar now that it's on Max.
Yeah, but shit, I might as well watch it too. Fuck
Mhm.
it.
Another film that I would recommend watching just came out is Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse Part 1. It dazzled at the weekend box office with a record-breaking $120.5 million opening, surpassing projections and becoming the summer's highest grossing debut. It also ranks as the sixth best opening for an animated film of all time, not accounting for inflation, but still a really good stat. Disney's The Little Mermaid, The Boogeyman, Guardians 3, and Fast 10 rounded out the rest of the top 5. Transformers Rise of the Beasts does pose a potential challenge this week, but Spider-Verse is expected to retain its number 1 spot. So the budget was only, not accounting for any of the marketing, was a little over 100 million. This thing is
Wow.
going to make so much for Sony.
Man, is that bad for Transformers that they're not gonna get number 1 on their debut versus Spider-Verse doing their second week? That seems bad.
Yeah, normally that's not a good sign, especially on your debut and you don't have any other big ones. The thing is, this summer is packed. I mean, look at those movies. Not The Little Mermaid or Guardians, but you got Fast 10 there. You got Transformers. The week after that, I guess The Flash. But there's another big hit after The Flash. Like these next 2 months are just packed with hits.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Mission Impossible comes out July.
That's right. Yeah. And
So
also
another big one.
Oppenheimer next month.
Ooh. Oh yeah. Yeah, these next couple of months going to be some big box office hits. But man, just 120 on the first week, and then they're going to beat out Transformers. So that means at least another 50, 60 mil
Mm-hmm.
second week. Like that ain't bad at all. Like they're doing something with this Spider-Verse universe. I guess we would call it Spider-Verse universe. And I never watched Into the Spider-Verse until yesterday.
Oh, nice.
So I watched it last night, and it was a good movie. It's a good
Pretty
movie.
good,
So
right?
now I want to watch. Yeah, now I want to watch Across the Spider-Verse. I don't know if I'm gonna wait or if I'm gonna catch it in theaters, but it was definitely good. So I could see why people love it. I've heard mixed reviews. I've heard people say it was incredible. I've heard people say it was kind of confusing. It bodes well. I didn't even know this was a part 1. So it seems like everybody's doing a part 1, part 2, huh?
And that was one of the issues, I guess. I talked to Nick over at Buds Bros, and he was like, I wish they had marketed better that it's a part 1, because you get to the end of the film and then that's it. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, the only reason I knew about it is because we cover it here on the show, but otherwise, the thing doesn't even open with Across the Spider-Verse Part 1. It opens with Spider-Gwen talking about, catching you up on her backstory. So when you get to the end, I remember in the theater, I was with Kelly, and everyone's like, oh, like they were kind of disappointed that was the ending. But yeah, I'm going to give a full review on a separate episode with someone who's making their debut here on the show, Sean, and we'll go into that later on. But yeah, I had my issues with it too. I think the first film is a lot better balanced, but it might be a product of the fact that it has to end on a cliffhanger. So there's some things in there that they can't wrap up. So it's just the nature of the type of movie they made.
Are they going to go back to back? Like part 2 is going to come out next year?
Yeah, it's coming out next year.
Oh, okay. So I'm kind of fine with it. I don't like the whole part 1, part 2 when it's like a 2-year gap between the movies.
Like Dune?
So yeah, it's like, come on. But at least they're going to say it was the pandemic's the reason why.
The writer's strike.
or that too. Like they'll find a way, but like at least it's coming out back to back. So it's not going to hurt too bad. People won't be left on that cliffhanger for long.
But again, good on Sony Pictures, and another W for them in the Marvel universe of movies. I said it last week. They have way more hits than they have misses, and this is why I will always go opening weekend to a Sony Marvel film as long as they have these characters. They've got Venom, they've got Morbius, Spider-Verse, Kraven's about to come out. I'll be there for it opening weekend. I like the way they do their movies. And speaking of Marvel, though, on the MCU side, a movie, I won't see an MCU. I don't see myself ever seeing another MCU film again. Things are changing. It seems like the reasons why I don't like these films anymore are finally starting to catch up to the actors. So Chris Hemsworth has reflected on Thor: Love and Thunder, admitting that it became, quote, too silly, and acknowledging the mixed response from fans. He did express the need for a tonal shift and drastic changes if he were to continue playing Thor. His upcoming projects in the MCU include Secret Invasion, Loki Season 2, The Marvels, and Echo. This is the guy that was championing Taika Waititi and saying, yeah, it's going to be really funny. And I felt like he was the guy saying that Thor 1 and 2 were too serious and they needed to go lighter, like Guardians of the Galaxy. So then they made Ragnarok and then they made Love and Thunder. And now he's saying that they got too silly. It's like, dude, it's been too silly since Ragnarok. Like, that shit was silly as hell. And now you're saying now it's too much. You've gone overboard already.
The hilarious part about it is that the reason why Thor 1 and 2 are bad movies isn't because it's serious. It's because it's fucking boring. Mm-hmm. That's it. It was a boring as dull as fucking movie. Just straight up. It has nothing to do with if it was funny. They could have added whatever jokes they wanted. That doesn't change the story. The story was dull. It was boring. It was shot bad. The colors were fucking washed the fuck out. People say that shit about Zack Snyder not having colors in his movies. That shit was terrible.
That's the MCU concrete is what they call it.
Yeah. It's fucking terrible. So if you take that out of it, then you switch over to the Ragnarok and then Love and Thunder, just incredibly goofy movies. Just straight up goofy movies. Like they might as well just call it slapstick at that point.
Oh yeah, they're comedies.
They go straight from one extreme to the other. Like there's a healthy middle ground. Somehow Sony finds it, Spider-Man, with their Spider-Verse movies.
Yeah.
And yet Disney can't find that happy medium.
I mean, it's exactly, remember that scene where Miles is okay. You haven't seen the sequel. I'm trying to think of a moment in the first one, but let's say when his uncle Aaron dies in the first film, right? And he's there in the alleyway and he's talking to him and he's encouraging him to keep going. That would have been undercut with a joke in the MCU immediately because they're afraid of having too heavy a moment for the audiences. They think it's too much for them, so they have to undercut all of that. And that's as what you were saying. The Sony movies are not afraid of, let's linger in that feeling and then pick up the character. Let's see what happens next. Unfold the fucking story. Don't just write a line that's going to make everything okay.
Exactly. So that's my thing with it. And if he thinks that they need a tonal shift for him to continue portraying Thor, like, let's keep it a buck, bro. After these sets of movies, you out of here. It don't matter what the fuck you want. They're not keeping your character around. It costs too much. So it don't really matter what the fuck he wants. He's gonna continue. He's gonna finish up his contract. Whether he wants to continue or not, that contract is ended, dog.
Yeah, I think you're right. And Taika is also leaving. I don't know if you saw, but Jason Momoa gave Taika a camera. I don't know what show it was on, but he gifted him a camera. And Jason did the same thing with Zach a few years ago, which was really bizarre. So it sounds like Taika, the big rumors that he's going to direct that Lobo film that Jason Momoa is rumored to star in. So if you loved Love and Thunder, if you love the MCU, that shit's going to continue over on the DC side with fucking Lobo. So if it's not too silly for you, get ready, because Warner Brothers Discovery, it's not too silly for them. They want it. But another actor who has said that this is all kind of a waste of time for their talent, they're just showing up for a paycheck, is the great Sir Anthony Hopkins, who's going to be in Rebel Moon this December. He has described his experience working on the Thor films as, quote, pointless acting, end quote, due to the extensive use of green screens for CGI. He criticized the process of sitting on a throne and shouting in front of a green screen, finding it lacking in depth and authenticity. Christian Bale, who appeared in Thor Love and Thunder, had similar sentiments about working with green screens. So these are like true actors, right? This is what happens. Yeah. You know, they hire on these true actors to try to punch up their villains. For example, Christian Bale, because that was the big thing, that Marvel had weak-ass villains. And they're like, and this is exactly what I fucking said. When Christian Bale got cast in Love and Thunder, I was like, it's a waste of fucking talent. Like, they're not going to do anything in there. And sure enough, this is pretty much what Anthony Hopkins is saying. He's like, this is fucking pointless.
Yeah, it's truly, they basically got them doing the Shia LaBeouf monologue in front of the green screen. Like, and the entire thing is green screen as much as they possibly can. Then they pretty much say, like, they don't even waste their time if possible, with trying to do real locations because they already have the whole green screened out studio and they just run that. They already got the fucking all the animators and CGI workers in a fucking warehouse sweating their ass off working 24/7 trying to make all this shit. So they're just like, we already have the money funneled into the green screen. Why the fuck why would we sit there, spend the time? Oh, we got to have the right lighting, be out here at the specific time, reshoots. If we need reshoots, they just showing up right here. So they just cut out all the bullshit. No need for permits, no need for closing down streets. All one take. And if we don't get it in one take or we don't like how it looked this time, we just call you up. And at worst, hey, if you're working on a different movie and you got a beard, we'll just CGI that shit out too. Like, it's insane. And it's truly, truly a waste of talent. They're on a green screen set half the time, talking to green screened actors, wearing a fucking green screen jumpsuit. How are you supposed to get the best out of your actors when they're basically glorified voice? They're basically voice actors at that point because nothing they see is real. Like, it's true acting. Like, they have to act everything. They have to act like they're in a spaceship and they're just in a green screen set. At least if you could put them in a model of a spaceship, then it gives you that feeling. But just having them on a big ass warehouse with just green walls, like, that should have turned somebody insane. That's practically like besides having the cameras and some guy giving you coffee and some donuts, it's practically like a padded room. It's just big ass room with green walls everywhere.
I was watching the making of Jurassic Park, like the movies that made us on Netflix, and the whole episode of Jurassic Park. And the actors had trouble back then, and they had full sets. You know, Steven Spielberg had them build out the whole fucking big ass museum thing that they all go in, the raptor pen. And in that scene with the raptor pen, the actors were like, you know, we have a hard time imagining that there's dinosaurs in there. Like, can you at least make some noise? Like, imagine if the Marvel or Disney tried to make Jurassic Park. Like, those actors, it's like, fuck you, we're not going to make any fucking noises. You're going to stand there in front of the green screen on that green floor, and you're going to wear that green suit, and you're going to pretend there's a fucking dinosaur. And Spielberg back then was on his fucking loudpiece, whatever you call him, the mouthpiece, and he was trying to make raptor noises on there, and that apparently helped the actors, like, imagine all the shit. But no, you wouldn't have any of that over with Disney.
Absolutely not, man. Bare minimum. Absolute bare minimum, man. It's sad. Like, they got to do something, but they're not going to. It's going to fuck up the timelines. It's going to fuck up the money. So we're just going to, well, not we, because we don't watch it, but it just sucks because these actors, like, it's hard to turn that bag down. Like,
oh yeah,
it's hard to turn that bag down. They're coming with, yo, all you got to do is do this one movie, especially if it's a one-off. Like, oh, I don't have to show up in like 5 other movies. I'm just a villain for this one movie. All right, let me just go out. 2 months of my life standing in a green screen. We already know how Christian Bale rocks. Like, this man goes insane on set. So I almost feel bad for the people that were working there because I'm sure he probably had to rein it in.
Oh yeah,
like, fuck, this is a Disney movie. They ain't gonna put up with my shit. So let me chill out.
I need those lifetime.
At least I don't have to worry
tickets.
about. Yeah, at least they didn't have to worry about lighting.
That's true. Very true. Well, there's another company that does still seem to use live action sets, and I know from Morbius we saw that. And Sony is moving forward with a live action Miles Morales film and an animated Spider-Woman movie that are confirmed to be in development, signaling the expansion of the Sony Marvel universe and a potential for actual competition with Marvel Studios. So I think that with the success of Spider-Verse, there's a rumor that they're canceling the El Diablo film that starred Bad Bunny, I think is his name, and that they're instead funneling that money towards something like this, the live-action Miles Morales movie. And I'm in for whatever they make. I don't care. I would have been there for El Diablo, and I said it on here. I'm like, I'm more excited for that shit than a Flash movie or the Batman movie, which is crazy. So with this coming out now, Miles Morales live action, they've had their Spidey. They don't need Peter Parker. Like, I'm sorry, I get Peter Parker is like the more popular Spider-Man. He's the standard one, but they have one that's bringing in money already on the animated front. So if you just do a live action adaptation, you can make your own fucking Spider-Man films. You can call back Andrew Garfield. He never got his Amazing Spider-Man 3. If you want to rope him into that movie, I mean, then you got people that grew up on those older films into this, or that just saw that last Away From Home or whatever it's called, No Way It's Home. And those, you're like, Daniel, you know the fucking name.
Yeah.
Those fans are going to come in and they're going to see this. Spider-Verse fans are going to want to see it from Miles. This is going to print money. Both of these, the animated spinoff and then the live action.
Yeah. My thing is, like, we just had Into the Spider-Verse. We just had Across the Spider-Verse. We already know, like, Miles Morales' story. But I guess there's going to be those new people that are like, oh, I don't watch cartoons. I'm not watching a fucking animated movie. So you're going to get those new people that would like to watch something live action. So I fuck with it. I like that. And Spider-Woman somehow probably has more pull when it comes to female superheroes.
Mm-hmm.
Spider-Woman probably has more pull now than damn near anything.
Yeah.
And unlike Disney, they're not going to let that IP just go to waste and wait 10 years down the line and then say, oh yeah, let's do a Spider-Woman movie now. Like, they strike while the iron's hot. People like Gwen. So just go ahead and get it started. And I feel like this is going to do well for them as well. I mean, they pretty much every Spider-Man movie does well for them. At least it makes its money back. So to me, it's a no-brainer. I kind of just wonder, like, how does Disney feel about this? Because I know they can't really do shit about it, but if the Miles Morales outperforms any of the Spider-Man shit that they got going on, like, that's a big L.
I know they don't like it because when I've seen the head of Sony Pictures, when she was talking to in front of Kevin Feige or one of the Disney reps about how, yeah, Venom 2 ties into the MCU, and Feige's like, well, I mean, sort of, not really. Like, he was downplaying. Like, they don't want the Sony Marvel universe fucking around with their Disney stuff. Even though they have a partnership over, like, they're paying Sony to use Spider-Man, they're still like, yeah, we kind of want to do our own thing. And Sony's like, well, you can't, because we can make our own films, like they did with Morbius, where the Vulture shows up and he's from the Disney, Marvel, Sony, Spider-Man films. So they're like, yeah, we can still use these characters all we want. And you don't, I mean, we can use fucking, what's his name? The kid that plays Spider-Man, if they wanted to, and throw him in a couple of his film and into Miles Morales if they wanted to. And I know Disney doesn't like it. And maybe there is a breach of contract there where they're like, okay, you can't use Peter Parker because we have him in our movies. You can only do certain things with them. But otherwise, if they're able to play around with all their properties, all they want, and make them hugely successful, when that re-up comes around for the contract, if Disney's like, hey, we want to keep using Spider-Man in future films, Sony could easily go, well, or we can just keep them because we've got a success over here, or the price just went up, which is what I would like charge them up the ass.
Yeah, you might as well hit them over the head. Like, they're kind of just stuck. You have the rights, the movie rights. Thank you, Stan Lee. So you kind of you can kind of do what you want. And I wonder if there's something in their contract which stipulates, like, hey, you can't have any type of Spider-Man movie come out when we also have a Spider-Man movie coming out, like, that year. So if they have, like, the next Spider-Man with Tom Holland coming out next year, then the Miles Morales movie must come out, like, the year after. It can't compete.
Yeah, that would make sense. Because, you know, the way they split up the profits last time with the last movie was Sony got all the ticket sales, and then Disney got the home video and merchandise sales. Like, Sony got hosed on it. I don't know why they agreed to that deal, but hopefully they're not as dumb with the next contract once that's up, or with Miles when they make that one, because they'll be able to keep all of that profit.
Yeah, that is a super bad deal, and makes me wonder, like, so for example, they got Spider-Man skins in Fortnite. Like, is that Disney?
Right. I mean, that's the question. Are they based on in Fortnite? Are they based on the film, or are they just generic Spider-Man?
Well, they got they got the Tom Holland looking Spider-Man, but then they also have Miles Morales
That's Sony
and
then.
Spider-Gwen.
Yeah.
So it's kind of weird. It's interesting. It's interesting. This deal is, to me, I say that, oh yeah, Sony's getting kind of screwed, but then also it's really Disney getting screwed because Spider-Man is the biggest Marvel character, and they kind of can't really use it for the most part without permission. Like they have to go get a permission slip from Sony. So
Sony and Paramount are, yeah, I think it is Paramount, are like the last two standing for like, we're going to keep the characters. Like Paramount or Universal, I forgot which one, they still have Namor and the Hulk. So Disney's paying them to use those characters. And then Sony's got all the Spider-Verse characters. It's Fox that fell, man. Like that one hurt when Disney picked up X-Men and the Fantastic Four.
yeah,
I wish Fox had instead like quickly passed it on to one of the other companies.
right before you buy us out, just gonna sell this real quick.
Just got to do something. Hold on.
Yeah. Like they're not getting those things back for like anything less than like 4 or 5 billion. Why would Sony sell this for anything less than that? Probably more, just off the fact that for forever they'll be able to come out with a Spider-Man movie and make $100 million box office on the first week, just straight up.
That's right. So far, so good. Sony proves that they run their Marvel universe better than they run their gaming division. So here we have some Aquaman 2 news, as in an interview with The Hollywood Reporter, director James Wan touched on the challenges of working on this sequel during a changing of hands at Warner Brothers Discovery and DC. Wan explained, quote, "I've had to make adjustments all along the way. DCU has been through lots of different versions, and one of the things that was challenging about this film was keeping track of what's going on," end quote. So Michael Keaton and Ben Affleck were each in different versions of the film, but with James Gunn now at the helm of DC Studios, neither one may end up included in the final cut. So as I mentioned last week, when it was the Toby Emmerich Hamada-verse, Michael Keaton was the Batman moving forward. They were erasing Ben Affleck. In fact, he dies fighting Michael Keaton in The Flash in that original cut. Somehow, big-ass Ben Affleck loses to old man Michael Keaton. And when Zaslav took over and the two heads of Warner Brothers Discovery were running things, they said, we want to keep these actors, the big three. So they changed it. Ben Affleck went in to do some reshoots on Aquaman 2. We saw him on set last year. And that was them saying, no, Michael Keaton is erased. And instead it's Ben Affleck that we're keeping as the Batman and moving forward. Therefore, new ending to The Flash. Ben's now in Aquaman 2 instead of Michael Keaton because Michael had already set some scenes in there. Batgirl is canceled because there's a lot of Michael Keaton in that universe. And we're not going to have Ben Affleck come in and shoot all those scenes. And that's that. But now with alleged pedo Gunn there, he's like, I want my own Batman and my own Damian Wayne and Robin and all this other shit. So we're just going to cut that scene completely. So Ben Affleck's scene got cut in Aquaman 2 and the Flash ending got completely changed. We know that Ben's post-credit scene is gone. Instead, it's a post-credit scene of Jason Momoa drunk falling in a puddle of water. That's the fucking post-credit scene. A fucking joke again. Aquaman, it's exactly what they were saying on Twitter. Chris Nolan and Zack Snyder worked so hard to give some credibility to these DC characters and all of it to just be fucked up within a few years. So this is what James Wan has been. And I'm not defending the guy. I'm not a fan of James Wan, but he's gone through it as they've demanded all these changes to his movie.
That's the cusp of this. Basically, the whole point of the Snyder Cut movement was, you guys fucked this movie up. We never got Snyder's vision. We need to see Snyder's vision, right? And with Aquaman 2, whose vision is this? Is clearly not James Wan's vision because they keep changing the fucking movie. So we don't even know, like, what did James Wan want to do with Aquaman 2? Because as far as we know, Aquaman 2 is a movie by committee.
Yep.
First it was, oh, we're bringing the Snyder Cut back. Then first it was the Snyderverse or the DCEU that was mostly started by Zack Snyder. Then it changed from that to, well, it's like the big wigs that are here now. They don't want the Snyderverse, so it's whatever you make the story and It's not going to be a DCEU. We're going to separate all the characters. They're not going to be together. None of this shit is going to be connected. Then, oh, actually, we're going to bring back Michael Keaton because for some reason we think more people will show up if Michael Keaton's in the fucking movie or something. Even though this movie made $1 billion fucking dollars without him. They already made $1 billion without Michael Keaton. We need him to come back. Oh wait, actually no, we need Batman to come be in this. And so, but we need not Michael Keaton, get Ben Affleck. And it's like, but what the fuck did James Wan want? Did he want any of these motherfuckers in?
Probably not.
So now we need the Wan cut. We need the James Wan cut. Because for all we know, that none of this shit is his, and he's gonna take the L when this shit comes out and it gets terrible reviews and nobody gives a fuck and it flops. Mm-hmm. He's gonna have a flop on his record. It don't matter if he goes to the next studio and says, "Well, I didn't have a choice." They're gonna be like, "All right, well, what did you have a choice in?" Because the movie is on your docket, just like the original Justice League. The Justice League. That they said that was Zack Snyder's vision.
Yeah, and it ended up being Joe Whedon's.
I honestly feel bad for him. Literally. Like it's nothing like getting blamed at work for some shit that you didn't do. It has nothing to do with you. You just doing what you're being told, and then you take the L for it. Like every single person that worked at DC over the past 4 years basically directed this fucking movie for him, and he has nothing to show for it.
Well, I'm here to see Aquaman 2 flop. I don't think it's going to make $1 billion like the first one, and I don't think we're going to get an Aquaman 3 out of it either. And that's why Jason's trying to move on and cozy up to Gunn and Taika Waititi to try to get his Lobo film. He's just willing to take a paycheck wherever he can. And I get it. He struggled. He struggled in this career, and he talked about it before, how like Zack being in Aquaman and being in the Snyder Cut like really propelled his career again. So he's constantly talking about how much he owes to Zack. But in this case, he's just again trying to make a buck wherever he can. Before we go into the Patreon comment, did you get a chance to go through any of the Rebel Moon pictures on the Variety article?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, I didn't put it in the show notes, but I wanted to just quickly touch on it because one of the Netflix heads on there, and I think Zach and Deborah got their way, but one of the Netflix guys was like, yeah, we need this movie to not be 3 hours long because our stats show that people don't tune in for anything longer than 2 hours. Those movies and stuff that even though they binge 5-6 hours of episodes, they won't sit for a 3 hour movie. Like it doesn't make any sense, but those are the stats. Like anything longer than 2 hours underperforms for them, is what they were saying. And so Zach and Deborah still had to battle even with Netflix to like, well, we want a 3 hour Rebel Moon, whatever it ends up being. And I know that the script originally had it be like 4 hours long, and that's why they ended up cutting it to 2 parts. And so it kind of evolved in that way. But I just thought that there was a lot of good information on this Variety article on that, because it's like, even with the success of the Snyder Cut, Netflix is still like, well, we still want it. We know you're Zack. It's like, why would you hire Zack Snyder? The guy makes long ass movies. His shit's going to be longer than 2 hours. Yeah.
The fact that they're like, oh, Zack Snyder, you think you could cut this down to like an hour 45? Like you're already splitting it up into 2 parts. So just do an hour 45 for each. Like, come on, man, that shit ain't happening.
Nope.
The thing is I like their reasoning behind it, because I also don't like watching long ass movies. I only like long ass movies if the actual movie continues to like push the pace and it's actually a good long movie, not like these movies that I'm like, damn, bro, like 30. I could have easily enjoyed this movie 30 minutes ago if it ended 30 minutes ago. Now I'm just sitting here waiting for the shit to end, and I didn't feel like that with the Zack Snyder's Justice League. So I wouldn't mind a 3 hour movie, but the problem with Netflix is that their movies that were over 2 hours long were ass. It has nothing to do with people like, oh, people don't like watching long movies. No, your long movies were trash. That's why they didn't get watched all the way.
I got to look up Army of the Dead's runtime. Let me see real quick, because that one, I guess that's 2.5 hours.
Yeah, I was going to say it was definitely 2 hours for sure.
And that
Like
cracked like
most of
their
their
one of their all-time streams. It did really well for them.
yeah. Yeah, like a lot of their 2 hour plus movies, like that Ryan Reynolds movie, that shit was like 2 hours and some change. A couple of those action movies that they had, I think, well, like Liam Hemsworth or one of the Hemsworth brothers was the star of like some like military action type movie. That shit was like 2 hours long. They make a lot of those type of movies that, back in the 80s used to be like an hour and a half, maybe an hour 45 at best. They made them like 2 hours long and they were terrible. And I'm sure people definitely cut out after like an hour and some change. Like, man, I'm good. I kind of got the gist. I'm good. And they cut it. So I could definitely see that the thought process behind it. And they're doing everything based off the algorithm. The algorithm says people stop watching. The data says people stop watching. We need to keep people watching. But hey, I know Zach has this vision. 3 hours is long, so it needs to be really good. If that's the direction he's going, I'm fine with it. But I also think that if they're gonna go that way, that it needs to be quite clear, just like how they didn't make it quite clear with Spider-Verse. They need to make it quite clear that this is Rebel Moon Part 1 or something.
Right.
So that when people watch this, they know that there's something coming behind it.
Yeah, I think I forgot what the title of this first one was. I don't know if it ended up being fake news or not, but there was like Rebel Moon, The Crimson Child was the name of the first part. But yeah, I think Netflix does need to have a part 1 somewhere in there. And I know that Zach is releasing 2 cuts of the first film. We were talking about it yesterday. One that's going to be R-rated, and then there's going to be one that, as he put it, anyone can watch. So I'm thinking he's thinking like Star Wars, PG-13 type of thing.
Mm.
And I mean, this is basically what it is. This is his unmade Star Wars project that now he can do under his own vision. It's not tied down to Star Wars lore, which is a good thing too, because people were spinning that as a negative, like, man, it's too bad that it's not going to be a part of Star Wars. It's like, well, it's a good thing that it's not a part of Star Wars also, because one, he couldn't make it at all under Disney anyway. And two, he can tell the story he wants to tell here. This is going to feed the Star Wars fans that have been starving for good Star Wars. People this is why Jared is so excited about it on Discord. He's a big Star Wars fan. He's been a Star Wars fan for life, and he doesn't like the new shit from Disney. He's like, this stuff from Zach is going to be what's going to scratch that itch for me. A couple other things from this Variety article is you got to see Ray Fisher for the first time in full costume. You got to see a bunch of the different sets, the actors, the characters, the some of the villains, the crazy costumes on those, the aliens, the robots that are involved in it. So it was a good Variety article. I recommend if you haven't checked it out. It gives a good background on everything and gives a background story on what this movie's all about. It's about an evil empire and this character trying to gather up basically 7 samurai, trying to get this group of people together to go up against it. And I think the article said that there's a lot of farmers on this moon that Sofia Boutella's character's living in, and they get the farmers together to fight against this because of oppression and probably taxation. If I have to, I don't know, who knows what they put in there, but it'll be good. It'll be some politics, I'm sure, will be worked into it, but overall a fun sci-fi time. But there you have it. That does wrap up our news for this week. Here we have Adrian's Patreon comment regarding last week's episode. He said, quote, "Glad you saw the YouTube video, and yes, the actors were from the show Supernatural. Regarding anime and manhwa, I don't know what manhwa was until I started watching this K-drama called Weak Hero Class 1, an incredible series. I found out that it is based on a webtoon, aka manhwa. That's how I learned the term. Also, there are many K-dramas based on webtoons. It's insane. Regarding that backlash against the makeup artist, I am glad he stood up for himself. And I agree to an extent with what Millennial Mike said about the term Snyderverse, but I never liked the term DCEU. It was always Zack Snyder's DC Universe for me. He has a plan and a path for all the characters. The snakes at WB screwed it up. It's true. Some Snyder fans have fallen so low that they say BS like, The Rock will restore the Snyderverse, Wonder Woman 84 is canon, etc. Right now, I want DC to burn. I haven't lost hope that Zack Snyder's DC Universe will be returned to him someday." End quote. And that is the path, Adrian. Make sure it flops. Make sure it burns. And I remember just a few years ago, people would tell this side of the fandom, like, no, you can't. If Aquaman flops, if Justice League flops, that was the big one, where they were like, You can't let Justice League flop because they're not going to want to release Zack's cut if this flops. And we were like, what sense does that fucking make? If we support Justice League, that tells them that we want that vision. And they didn't get it at that time. And now they do. And this is why these fucking films are flopping now. Because people are finally boycotting them. You know, someone like me, I went to see the first Aquaman, and now it's like, it's completely different, right? It's now, I even saw the first Shazam, and they had that overlap back then of people like me who were like, well, maybe it's still, you know, there's some hope, maybe that it still ties into, but now it's like, no, none of this shit matters anymore. So let it flop. It's all terrible. Blue Beetle's the next one. That's going to go down. It looks awful. It's an HBO movie, and they decided to release it in theaters.
Yeah, that shit looks terrible. It really makes me wonder how bad the Batgirl movie was, that they just they just scrapped that and just said right off, and they didn't do that with this movie. Like, man, this shit looks so bad. But hey, I don't know anybody that even is interested in wanting to watch it.
No one's gonna fucking see that.
Yeah. They better hope that people tune in on HBO Max, because otherwise it's going to be bad. I say maybe 30 mil first week. That might that sounds high. That sounds high. It's really not for something that's probably cost them like at least 100 mil.
People are saying it looks like the Injustice game. Every time you see him move around and fly and shit. They're like, Injustice Blue Beetle looks better than this.
Hey, that fucking NetherRealms be making some good looking cutscenes.
Oh yeah. Yeah, they do. They should have hired them instead. They're all in the same fucking company. Like, get them to do the Flash, man, because the Flash looks fucking awful. I don't know who they got for all that shit.
They're too busy making the new Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, that's true. They're like, we're gonna make sure our stuff is good.
Yeah,
we're not gonna fuck around with that. Yeah, and I still love that tweet that I saw. I can't remember if I shared it yet, but someone said Rebel Moon cost $120 million to make. Oppenheimer cost $100 million to make. Something, if those fucking films are amazing and they do great, then all these films that are spending like $250 million, like The Flash, $300 million, have a lot of explaining to do. Like, if anyone at the studio were smart, they would point to films like Oppenheimer and Rebel Moon, assuming they're great successes, and say, how are they able to make a shit ton more money, have more people talking about those movies on a third of the fucking budget of this? I mean, it's just, hopefully someone's looking at that and comparing them and firing people. I have a feeling they're not going to, but at least I'm going to make sure that we point it out and make it loud noise over that shit, because there's no reason why a $250 million minimum Flash movie looks that terrible.
But then they're not willing to do what needs to be done to get those kind of movies. They don't, no. They want to take your cut of the movie, show it like 5 months, 5, 6, 7 months early, say, hey, the audience didn't like this, and this, edit, reshoot, so you can make the movie better. And it's like, no, that's not my vision. My vision is my vision. Let me make what I want to make. Instead, they want to make these movies by committee and then wonder, man, how come nobody likes these movies? Because you can't make a movie that you go to each different person and say, what did you like? What did you like? No, you just make the movie, and then the people that like it, like it. The people that don't like it, don't like it.
Yeah, that's exactly it. You cannot please everyone. You're not gonna, you're thinning yourself out, and eventually you're not gonna get, it's the whole thing of like the Toys R Us model, where they went out of business because they carried everything and they sold very little of it. And that was the problem. Like, yeah, they had everything, but people were not buying everything. People were going, oh, I'm glad that's there. Now I know that it's there. Now I can get it for next time. And guess what? They wouldn't come back.
Yep. If you please everybody, you please nobody. Just straight up.
Exactly.
And haters are a good thing, because haters are, they engage with the movie. That means they truly liked it. I don't go around everywhere telling people how shitty MCU movies are. Like, the only time I really bring it up is when we're talking about it on the podcast. Like, I don't even speak about Marvel at all. It doesn't come up in my mind.
Not even in your group chats or anything?
No one
talked about Guardians 3?
No, they talk about it. I don't care. I don't even engage. I don't say, oh man, guys watching those shitty movies or anything. They're just like, oh, we're going to go, hey, we're watching Guardians of the Galaxy. oh, Mason, you didn't watch it? No. And that's it on my end. I just don't care.
Well, that's different now because if you had said no 10 years ago, they would have been like, why not? Why didn't you see it? What's the problem? You don't like them? You were like crucified for not seeing an MCU movie 10 years ago. I fucking saw that shit firsthand.
Yeah. It was like that. But it seems like nowadays people understand, like, it's a lot of fucking movies and a lot of them aren't good. Like at first it's, oh man, I saw Doctor Strange. It was good. And then later on it's, oh man, you know, all these movies coming out and that Doctor Strange wasn't that hot.
That's
like,
right.
Over time, it's when people say, oh yeah, well, you know, that Avengers movie wasn't that great. And oh, this movie wasn't that good. And maybe I didn't have to go see Quan-Chi. Like it's like they know, but they don't want to admit that they burned $10 or $13 or $15 at the time. But later on, they always come around and say, you know, those movies weren't all that good.
Yeah, they age like spoiled milk. They don't stand the test of time. They, yeah, they remember that quickie rather than like that long, good, you know, that good lay. That's what they're getting with the Marvel movies. Just quick satisfaction. That's all they're getting over there. And then they're like, oh shit, I guess that wasn't that good. That post nut clarity. But
damn, I was hitting that.
Exactly right. But thank you so much, Adrian, for your Patreon comment. If you want to leave a comment as well, head on over to patreon.com/thereasonsimBroke. Let's head on over into the final portion of today's episode, the Broke Block, what Macio and I have been up to since you last heard us. So Macio, kick it off. What have you been up to in the last couple of weeks?
My wife's her birthday was a couple of weeks ago, and we celebrated at Volcano Bay, the Universal water park. That was pretty fun. We've been there before, but I like that park because it just runs so smooth with the whole, like, you don't have to physically line up. There's a virtual line, so you don't have to sit there and waste time just at a ride for 20, 30 minutes when you could just do something else. You could go on the lazy river, you could grab some food, grab a drink, whatever it is. And then, oh, it's time for me to get on a ride. And then instead of being in line for 30 minutes, you're really only in line for like 5. That experience is definitely a lot better than going to like a Disney water park, which now like they need to do something with those water parks. They're so fucking old. They haven't updated really anything. Aquatica, the SeaWorld water park, and then Universal's Volcano Bay, they just pretty much blow them out the water in that regard. So that was fun. I'm finished up Back for Blood, probably one of the worst boss fights at the end of a game I've ever seen in my entire life. But overall, the game was still fun. Definitely a play. I recommend that if you have four people that you, or 3 other people you can gather up, and you got Xbox Game Pass. It was a real boon for me because I have Game Pass, so I was able to play it with my computer, my wife play on the Xbox, and not spend any additional funds versus the person I was playing with, my buddy and his girl. He was playing on his PC and she was playing on her PS5, so he had to buy 2 copies of the game. So
Gotcha.
things like that. That's like, man, you know, thank God for Game Pass. I didn't have to buy the game twice. Like, buying the game once would have been fine, but having to buy the game twice would have been, damn. Just it's the same fucking game, but just because I'm playing it on 2 different platforms, now I got to buy it twice. So that was cool. Just been playing a lot of Fortnite. That's pretty much it. You know, my birthday was yesterday, but I didn't really do much. Just went to work. You got me a little gift, so that was cool. I ain't gonna lie, man. I don't know if I'm not smart enough to do vinyl stickers, because I somehow fucked those things the fuck up.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like I don't know, like they didn't come off the tape right or something. So my Xbox is kind of misaligned a little bit. It still looks cool. It looks decent. The Fortnite one, I jacked that shit up though.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, the vinyl stickers take a little experience because you got to get them started a little bit with your fingernail like when they're not sticking to the sticker, if that happens, especially if they're freshly made, because if they're freshly made, they don't have that much time that they're stuck to the sticker. But if they're like a couple of weeks old, then, they'll come right out. But otherwise, you just get them started with the fingernail, and then they stick on there, and you just peel them off, and then you stick it onto whatever. But otherwise, yeah. What would you end up putting the stickers on, or at least the Xbox one?
Oh, I put it on my laptop, so now it looks like I got a Microsoft Xbox laptop.
Nice. Very cool. Did your wife end up doing any small thing for you? I know you mentioned that might have occurred.
Yeah, she just she made like my favorite thing for dinner, chicken pesto, and then she had like the whole apartment set up with like happy birthday stuff and like my favorite candy. Then we watched, I ate my favorite candy while we watched the movie. So it was just a cool chill day at the crib.
What's your favorite candy?
Twizzlers.
Yes. Fuck yes. Every week we make sure we're not empty on them because we buy the giant bag of them, just the regular, not the cherry shit, not the none of that. Like those
not
are
the bites.
Nope, not the bites. If I will settle with the bites, if it's like the only thing, I had to settle for it when we went to one of the theaters nearby. We went to the Dollar General, and it's like that was the only Twizzler they had. I'm like, all right, I'll get it, but I won't be happy about it. Yeah, man. Twizzlers
I can't do it. If I have Twizzlers in the house, man, I eat them shits up so fast. So I try not to have hanging around. It's kind of like I'll get them every once in a while. We have Kroger delivery, and they had Twizzlers. They had Twizzlers as a freebie a couple weeks ago, but it was just like the fucking bites, and I was chewing through those things. I'm surprised it took me a whole like 5 or 6 days to eat them, because normally probably if they would have been a regular Twizzlers, I would have ate like the entire fucking bag in like 2 days. It's like once I get like that flavor in my mouth, it's just like, bro, I gotta eat Twizzlers at all times.
Yeah, it's like every time you walk by them, you rediscover them. Like, Twizzlers.
Yeah, especially like when I don't have them like in a container, like a sealed container. If like a whiff the air, like the AC cuts on, and then they blow some air, then I could smell the bag of Twizzlers. I'm like, fuck, some Twizzlers. And I'm like, but I just had some. Like I was literally just in the kitchen and I just had some, and then I just get up and get them. So I try not to keep up around.
Well, I've never had it that bad where I can smell them, but a good excuse though is to finish them quickly because they get stale or whatever pretty quick. Honestly, as far as candy goes, I mean, if that sits out, even if they have the resealable thing on them, if that sits out for a week, like it gets real hard to chew, even like the long strips.
Yeah, definitely.
I was going to ask you, since you were talking about Game Pass and Xbox, I saw today that Western Digital, I think, the prices went down on those hard drives, those SD cards or whatever.
Yeah.
Did you end up upgrading yours or getting any of the expansions?
I'm sticking firm with what I got because they're still overpriced. In my opinion, that what they're trying to do is cute. It's funny. It's cool. They have we have the expansion passes starting at $80. The $80 one is 500 gigabytes. That fits nothing. Mm-hmm. That's pointless. What really needs to happen is the 500 gigabytes shouldn't even exist.
Right.
And then the 1 terabyte starts off at $80 and the 2 terabyte starts off at 130-ish. That would be fair value. Now I understand their whole thought process with the type of SSD that they're using. It's a small form factor. It's in a proprietary slot, so it's more expensive. But like as a consumer, I just look across and I see that PlayStation and PC, you can buy a SSD and it's the same technology, technically faster technology, and it's cheaper. Mm-hmm. So when you see that, when I see a PS5 user can get expandable SSD storage for $50 and it's a terabyte, the fucking terabyte shouldn't start higher than 80. So until these prices drop another, like the terabyte, it can't be any more than 100, just straight up. So it's good that they have more competitors. I would like to see another competitor join in just so we could get these prices down even more. But I also think that the prices are high because they're not selling at scale. And maybe once the Starfield trailer comes out, if it look or the Starfield gameplay gets shown, if it looks good, the game comes out and it sells crazy and more people want to buy Series X, then since that it's going to be so many more people trying to buy an Xbox or already owning one and they want to upgrade their storage, then that might be the driving factor to get these prices down. But I think it's just better if they have more competitors and the price just comes down regardless, because the 500 terabyte is maybe or the 500 gigabyte, maybe you could kind of finesse that and say like that's for the Series S owners. But other than that, like there's no point for you to buy that if you have a Series X. Like that is just such a small size. Like that's like Call of Duty and like 2 other titles, and then your card is full.
Definitely not Red Dead, because I know, or any Red Dead or GTA, you're fucked.
Oh yeah, and the new GTA coming out probably next year.
Forget about it.
At worst, like that thing is going to be at least 150 gigabytes, probably closer to 200.
Yep. Yeah, no, it's not going to work. It's definitely not going to work. So you're saying if a Series S owner, though, you're not really installing any games unless you're buying them digitally and then putting them on your system. Otherwise, you're just streaming them off of Game Pass, right? So really, there's
probably
no real need for that expansion.
Exactly, and the games are smaller too because you're not playing in 4K. So you got that going for you. But like, and you're already buying a cheaper console at that. You're buying a console that's routinely on sale for $200 or like $220, $250 at worst. Like no one's paying $300 for a Series S anymore. So when the cost is that low, you're probably going to get people that are not willing to drop 150 for a terabyte. The math doesn't add up. At that point, you would have been better off just buying a Series X that already comes with a terabyte. So that makes sense. But even then, I feel like the 500 gigabytes shouldn't even cost more than a game. It should be $60 or less, $50 to $60 at best. It shouldn't be 80.
Yeah, the few times that I've been close to pulling the trigger on a Series S, I've been like, well, I'll get that, and then extra controller that's like $70-ish, and I'm like, oh, I would need an expansion at some point. But then, if like you were saying, at that point, you might as well just get the X because the memory, and then I'd have the option to get discs if I wanted to. Not that would be the intention. It would be just to do Game Pass. But yeah, I hope that does bring down prices. And the last thing I'll ask you about the memory drives, I don't know how compatible they are with the other systems, but where they just release a DL or an update that makes these other SSD drives compatible with the Xboxes.
I think they will, just off the fact that multiple people have done conversions where they've hooked up like just a regular NVMe SSD to that port, which I believe is called the CF Express port. And so they basically put it in a CFX port enclosure and then plug that in. And basically the only reason that it hasn't worked is because Microsoft is blocking that technology. So I do think sometime in the future, they might either sell a enclosure that they'll say, hey, this enclosure costs $40. And then you could put whatever SSD you want in this and then plug it in and then it works. I think that might be a possibility. Or they'll just have more competitors. They'll just open up the floodgates and say, hey, anybody can make a SSD. As long as you match these parameters, you can make an SSD and we don't care. Because right now, I think they only have the license is Seagate and Western Digital. So if they're going to do it like that, then it's going to take forever to get competition versus just letting whatever SSD makers, if they feel like they want to try to make this product, they should just let them.
Yeah. Well, yeah, maybe it's a matter of the contracts running out, as you were saying. Once these deals are done, hopefully, then maybe they'll open that up. That's good to know, though. A lot of good information, mainly for myself. I don't know if the Brokettes are in it for Xbox, but I am.
I wouldn't even be surprised if on Sunday they announce Series X with a 2 terabyte for 500. Like maybe they say, hey, we're not selling the 1 terabyte Series X anymore. That SKU is gone. $500 2 terabyte just to be like, hey, we know that we're kind of fucking you guys with these damn expansion cards.
Sure.
So let's just give people the option. I mean, we're already 3 years in on this generation, so we're due for some different SKUs. Like we don't have any higher tier SKUs or Series X Pro or PS5 Pro. So I wouldn't be surprised if they just say, hey, we're going to have 2 terabyte Series X. And the same thing with the Series S, maybe do a 1 terabyte, because at this point, and at this stage in life, they can't really, either they have to drop the price of the Series S and just officially say it's $200, because $300 is not a good MSRP for that anymore. It was good when it first came out, but 3 years in, it's not a good price point for that. So it's not a powerful console to be paying $300 for that. So they definitely need to either lower the price or at least bump that up to a terabyte.
Well, that's good to know. So if anything, I'll wait through, and if anything past Summer Game Fest, that should be soon, right? So if they announce anything there.
Yeah, I think it's starting on Friday.
Oh, perfect. So I know I might mess with Scott, one of the other hosts on here, because he's a very anti Jeff Keighley. So it'll be interesting.
Yeah. Summer Games Fest is Friday, and then the Microsoft conference, I think, is on Sunday.
Awesome. That's good. Good. Hopefully, crossing my fingers, good news coming out of that. And depending on how big it is, we'll cover it here next week or the next time you're on. But all I had on my end was obviously I saw Across the Spider-Verse, went with Kelly. Leo was the first Spider-Verse. He likes it, but there's some parts that are intense, like when the Prowler is, like when he's invisible and the Prowler's like sneaking around in the apartment. Yeah. Like that, and the music is mainly what freaks him out. So for that, like, he's like, yeah, no. And even the sequel, when I saw it, I'm like, oh, he would have been crying several times in this one because there's a lot going after Miles, and then it ends in a cliffhanger. So it's just not a happy, it's a happy ending sort of, but it's also not like, when he's safe, it's not one of those.
Yeah. You think like Leo gets kind of anxious when, like, if he enjoys the character and he feels like, oh, that's the good guy, and then like certain bad things start happening, or if they feel like they're in like big danger, then he feels like he's in danger with them. Oh, okay. Yeah.
Like with the Mario movie, at one point, the scene cuts to Mario getting swallowed up by a big Mario Donkey Kong. Yeah, they get swallowed up by this big fish or whatever, and then the scene cuts to Peach and Bowser, and Leo's like, Mario's dead. And I'm like, and I'm like, well, keep watching. So, and that's the way his mind works, because he doesn't know that they're just setting up another scene, right? To him, like, they got eaten. The end.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, when he eats stuff, it's gone.
So that's the way. Yeah. So he's not gonna see the second one anytime soon. But and neither am I, actually. Like I liked it, but I liked the first one a lot more. I'm not going to be buying this on 4K, especially without part 3. Maybe when 3 comes out, maybe I'll buy the bundle, but it's really going to depend on how good 3 is. It's just, again, the first one is so well balanced. It's so well made. Animation's great in the second one too, but again, it's mainly pacing and plot issues that I had a problem with, which I will cover on a separate episode, again, with Sean, that should be releasing within a week of this episode releasing, depending on how I get through to editing.
I watched, and maybe I was dumb, because I was like, oh, I was passing by, and oh man, Redbox, people don't use this shit really. But I'm like, oh, let me see if they have Into the Spider-Verse. And they didn't have the Blu-ray. They only had the DVD. Did I miss anything by not putting it on the Blu-ray? I got a good 4K TV. It looked okay. It didn't look terrible. For some reason, at the end, I was like, man, I wonder if this would have just popped more if I'd have had it in 4K, Blu-ray, HDR, all that shit.
Yeah, man, it's a visual feast. Like, hopefully your player anyway had some kind of upscaler or something.
Yeah, it does.
Okay.
But
there'll be little things maybe on rewatches if you do see it again. Like, you'll notice a lot more of the comic printing on a lot of the animation on the edges for the characters. When you see Gwen in her world, or at least when you peek into her world, you see like all the finer details because it's water painted type of backgrounds and stuff. So I think it's worth watching in Blu-ray or 4K. So, but I mean, I still don't think, like, obviously the experience wasn't lost as you were watching it, because a good fucking movie, you're not going to be worrying about how sharp it looks 5 minutes in.
Exactly. Like when it first came on and I was like looking at all the logos and shit, I was like, God, this looks fucking terrible. But then like maybe 3 minutes in, I was like, oh yeah, it just out of sight, out of mind.
Mhm. Yep, exactly right. Well, Maceo, thank you so much for being on this week and talking Xbox, Microsoft, TMNT, a little bit of everything on this episode. Thanks for being on, helping with the hosting, and please let them know where they can find you.
You can find me in the Discord at Mac the Murderer. Tag me if you want to talk some shit or talk about Fortnite. I was thinking maybe like I might stream. I don't know, like maybe stream into the Discord when I'm playing or something. Cause that shit pops up every single time I play Fortnite. It's like, oh, you want to stream on Discord, but I don't know where to do it. So I kind of just like, oh no, I'm not going to do that. So maybe I might stream on Discord if people want to see me get fucked over or something.
You say that, but I bet you're good. Well, it's probably the game fucking you over, not the other players, really.
Oh no, these dudes cracked out, man. These motherfuckers cracked the fuck out, like insanely good. I don't even know why they're playing with me.
Well, they're matchmaking, man. Is it the same stuff as Call of Duty? There you go. So you've got a good record.
Guess so. But it's like they had like this whole thing. They added like a rank mode. I know all the people that are playing with, they were like, oh man, finally they added a rank mode. So all these fucking amazing players will stop playing with us. I was like, no, the fuck they're not. Those guys don't want to play in rank. They want to shit on trash cans like us. They want to shit on the average player so they can feel better about themselves. Like me, I want to play people that's good sometimes and shitty and just as good as me, like average it out. But you know, that might be something I might do. We'll see.
You should.
But yeah, that's pretty much all. Only place you can find me is the Discord because I got rid of like damn near all my social media.
Just like Millennial Mike, he did the same thing. He switched over to a flip phone. I don't know if you heard.
No, I'm not going that far. I'm not going that far. I still need like Google Maps and shit. I like watching YouTube, but yeah, I just the only social media I was really on was Twitter, and then that shit started going downhill. So I just got rid of it. Like I'm not really on Facebook like that. The only reason I'm on Facebook is to get invites to events. Other than that, and I check that shit like once a month, or not once a month, probably like once a week, maybe once every other week. I'm barely on that shit.
All right, well, there you go. You have links to our Discord, especially right in the description where you can find Maceo and the rest of the hosts. And this week, if you want to be heard on the podcast, head on over to speakpipe.com/thereasonsimebroke. There's also a link in the description. And leave us a voicemail, 90 seconds or less. Whether it's a question, a comment, whatever it is, you can be heard again at speakpipe.com/thereasonsimebroke. But thank you all so much for joining us this week. I've been Daniel, joined by Maceo, and Broke at Core. All will be well. So, Maze, I do have to ask, who was your, except for Miles, who was your favorite other spider person in the first film?
It'll probably be Spider Pig, or Spider the black and white Spider-Man.
Oh, the what's his name? Nicolas Cage one?
Yeah.
Spider-Man Noir.
Yeah, I fuck with the Spider-Man Noir and then Spider Pig.
Yeah, well, if you see the sequel, you're gonna see some really wacky fucking Spider-Man, like some shit that you're like, oh my god, they made it. That's like a product line Spider-Man. Like you'll see that shit in there. Any toy you might have ever come across that's a Spider-Man, they probably threw that in the background. Like I put up on Discord that the popsicle, that shitty little Spider-Man popsicle was in the film.
That's crazy.
And that
popsicle was terrible too. Holy shit.
Oh yeah, they all tasted the same.
The Spider-Man, the Sonic. Nasty.
What's cool is Sega actually made Treasure Hunting Sonic, put it up. I don't know if it was like a pin or a t-shirt, but they made that Sonic popsicle like design, and they made it with the eye crooked and everything. Cause it was never like the picture. That bubblegum ball was always like off on his cheek.
Yeah. And who wants to chew on a cold ass piece of bubblegum?
I was always like, I think I remember my parents like not letting me even have them. They're like, you're going to choke on it. Because yeah, it's a cold bubblegum thing, like easy to choke on. Like they just do they give that to kids still? I don't know if that's I gotta go. I
They
gotta go
still
to like
sell them. They still
like straight
sell 'em.
up. I don't know how that's not a choking
I've
hazard.
I haven't seen it in the store though, but like if you walk up to a fucking ice cream truck, if you live in a neighborhood where an ice cream truck still rides around, yeah, you'll see they still sell them shits.
Fuck, I gotta check them out. I gotta see. I guess it's not a
They got
choke. Maybe.
Pikachu now too.
Oh, nice. Yeah, well, probably not enough idiots choking on them. So my parents just didn't trust me, I guess.